platform. Some of you know me from last year. I grew up in Dedham. I was born here, I grew up here. My family has been here for generations. And last year I spoke about my platform. You'll see my fiscal conservativeness. I'm using my signs from last year until we run out of them. My platform last year was lower taxes, transparency, and accountability. And not enough has changed really this year to change that from my platform. But I do have a slightly different platform, and I call it the 5.5 T's. It was 3 T's until a couple of weeks ago, but it's 5.5 now, and I'll show you why. So the first one, as I spoke to a lot of you throughout the summer, one of the main things that still was on everybody's mind was taxes. And we're going to talk a little bit about taxes in a minute, but I want to go through the rest of the T's. Town hall, we need to get that open. Traffic, we now have a situation where we're going to be appointing a new town manager. And then we have my 1.5 point T, which is transparency and accountability. So I'm going to go through each of those quickly. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on taxes, and then I promise it won't be that boring, and then I'll let you enjoy yourself. So if we can go to the next slide, please. So taxes. You know, usually when you construct a budget, you have to figure out how much money you need before you decide to create the tax rate. You need to know how much money you have, and then you have to know what the property in town is worth. We have a commercial rate, we have a residential rate, and then the industrial rate is the same as the commercial rate. Once you know those components, you can construct the tax rate. Well, I thought it was interesting because I saw in the paper, can everybody see that, or is that blurry? Okay. So it's me. There we go. So, one in every try. So I saw a quote in the newspaper. It said, "The tax bills are higher than the previous year because Dedham revalued properties and the values went up." The problem with that is it kind of ignores the formula. You create the tax rate after you know the values, and then you know how much you need. So if you budget, and if you can take the waste out of the budget, you can set the tax rate. You can set it so that your taxes go down if you don't waste your money. And we'll also talk a little bit about some of the things that are in the budget that I know can come out. And for some of you that don't know, I used to be the assistant director of finance for the town, so I was pretty involved in this process. And that's why I know that there's things in the budget that can come up. So we did reduce taxes a few times, actually. One year we used what was called the overlay, but everybody's probably heard from last year the term free cash. And free cash, as I've mentioned before, is really, in its simplest form, your leftover tax money from the prior year. So nobody can do anything with the town's money except for town meeting. They appropriate all the money, but the free cash gets certified by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts once a year at the end of the year, and it becomes available to use in any way that town meeting sees fit. So what happens is it gets stuck in the budget, and people don't realize that there's a lot of projects or items in the budget that a lot of times town meeting would think twice about. But when you say, oh, but we're going to pay for it with free cash, you say, oh, it's not costing us anything, so fine, we'll do it. But once you understand that free cash is actually your money, it takes on a different meaning.
Yes. Anyway, one of our friends were going to move to Middleborough because somebody said the taxes were too high to pay here for the property tax and all that stuff. And town maintenance is not that good and all that. We want to make it good. We want to turn it around and update it for 2019.
Well, I agree that taxes are too high.
Yeah,
as far as the services that get delivered in town, I think we have good services delivered in town. This is not about personnel. It's not about laying off people. There's enough in that budget to come out that can have a serious effect on the amount of money you spend on taxes, not just the tax rate. Last year, during my interview with Dedham TV, Scott Hield was one of the moderators, and he said, well, the tax rate went down, right? And I said, yes, it did. Did your taxes go down? He said, no, they went up. Well, what would you rather have? I raise the tax rate if we can make if we can make the actual physical amount of dollars that come out of our pocket go down. I don't care what the tax rate is.
It has to be put into something that would make sense, you know, to spend it wisely. And all that stuff.
Exactly.
You know, useful stuff.
Exactly. Exactly. So, so the point I was trying to make here is that surplus, the overlay fund is used to take money that we need for abatements and exemptions and things like that, and also for uncollected taxes. But at the end of the year, all the money that's left over in that becomes free cash anyway. So Jessica, we can go to the next slide here. So, like I mentioned, the extra revenue left over from last year becomes free cash at the end of the fiscal year, once it gets certified by the state. So it's your money. It's your money, and we should, in my opinion, what we need to do is we need to construct a budget so we don't have $16 million in free cash, which we've had. We have $16 million of money that didn't need to be collected last year, then we wouldn't have to have paid $16 million out of our pockets. So, and again, that money has been used sporadically, infused into the budget in order to reduce the tax rate, but that doesn't change the need for the budget. So I hope that makes sense to people. Town Hall was my second T. Let's just get it open. You know, it's been a long time. I left the town in 2015, and it was supposed to be open in 2 years at that time. And it's been 4 years since I've been gone, and it's still not open. So why? Well, normally when you construct a contract, a building contract, I know there's a lot of real estate guys here, but you have provisions for a breach of the contract. You have deadlines, and you have consequences for failing to meet some of those milestones and for not meeting your deadlines. I have not seen a contract for Town Hall, but I'm going to guess that some of you have probably heard liquidated damages. You set a deadline, and if it's not completed by the deadline, the contractor starts paying. What has happened here is we've had the bond called, so the bonding company's now involved, but we've hired back the same company to complete the project. And you know, from everything I've heard, it's really not a whole lot closer to being open. So I just want to get Town Hall open, and I think that, and I think we can do it if we look at the contract and see what's in there.
7 million to 28 million.
Yeah, 7 million to 28 million. And then when you add on the public safety campus, which was going to originally be a renovation of the Town Hall, and now it's going to be a demolition and a construction project, you're up to $73 million.
Wow.
So yeah, and you're going to see later on the amount of debt that we have. It's just not sustainable. Traffic. A lot of people have told me that they're a little bit upset about traffic, especially in the square. And I know there's business owners in the square that are upset about the amount of traffic, how long it takes people to get to their businesses, or how long it takes their employees to get there. That's going to take some collaboration. You know, it's going to take work with the planning board, the police department, the economic developer, and you know, I have relationships with those departments. I was, some of you might not know, I was a police officer, for a full-time sworn officer for 7 years and an auxiliary volunteer for another 5 years. So I have relationships with the police department as well, and also work closely with Mike Donchemont on the budget when I was there. So I think that I can collaborate. I think I have the relationship and the skills to collaborate to try to figure out a solution to that problem, because it's only going to get worse the more building we do. Town manager. So I don't think I have to tell anybody in this group there's a lot of issues on the table, and our town manager's leaving. So the Board of Selectmen in our town, the Board of Selectmen appoints the town manager. That's going to be an important decision, because it's going to need to be somebody that has the, you know, you obviously need the leadership and the management ability, but you need financial skills to get us through what's going on right now, to get that town hall open, and to get through what I see coming down the pike in terms of, I mean, I don't know if any of you saw the article I sent after town meeting into the Dedham Times, but we spent $700,000, I think we took out of roads money to put into the Robin Reyes Fund. And I worked on those projections. I can tell you that was never the intent of the Robin Reyes Fund. That fund was supposed to sustain us in terms of capital needs for many, many years, and it didn't. So we need somebody that's going to be prudent about how we space out our capital projects, and is going to be financially, fiscally prudent with how he spends our money. So transparency and accountability. Again, these are things I talked a lot about last year, but last year I talked about how everybody talked about how they were going to get the checkbook online, and I had been trying to get the checkbook online since 2011 and the technology existed to do that. But after the election, when I mentioned to everybody that the technologies existed for 20 years to put your checkbook online, the checkbook was online. So the checkbook's online now. I've been on it. I'm not 100% thrilled with the information that you can get from it, but it's a start. It's a start, and it's something that we can work towards making sure that anybody in this room, anybody in the town that wants to see what we're spending our money on, can see it. The website's been renovated, and as far as the transparency issue, it looks pretty. It looks nice, but I don't find it easy to navigate or to find the information that you need. When you do a search for simple things like budget documents, or I'm always looking for financial information, it's just not easy to find information. So we spend a lot of money on that website. That needs to be fixed. And there's other issues too. I won't go into too much detail about them, but so I'm going to give you a little financial wrap up. When you compare Dedham to towns, you probably all saw the financial newsletter that came out. Those are always, they're mailed to just about everybody in town. For some reason I don't get one. Maybe they don't want me to say something. I always get one from my parents. And I think it's interesting because I used to be in the room when they would construct those things, and it was always very creatively worded, and the comparisons that you make, where our tax rate is lower than New York City. Okay, that's good. But our expenses are about $4,000 per capita. Every man, woman, and child, whether you pay taxes, whether you vote or not, every man, woman, and this child accounts for $4,000 of our budget every year. In other towns, similar communities, it's about $2,900. That's a big difference. I don't think there's anyone in this room that wouldn't mind not having to spend $1,100 per person. So what does this mean? It means that our average tax bill is it's a little under $6,900. In other similar communities, that same tax bill is about $4,900. And that's a big difference. Our general government, our per capita general government, the budget's separated into education, general government, public safety, and some other smaller things, local receipts. But our per capita general government is 170% higher than similar cities and towns. Wow. That's a big difference. Our debt, and debt is the thing, this number comes from before the municipal project that we're doing. Our debt is already 30% higher than similar towns. And that's why the Robin Reyes Fund is not able to sustain the debt payments. Because you build something like a town hall, you obviously don't pay for it all at once because you don't have that kind of money, but you bond it. And then those bond payments come out of your taxes for the next 20, 30 years, however long it takes to pay it off. Well, our debt is 30% higher than similar towns that are similar to that. So the big question is why? Why am I running? And the answer is, I help. I help in the way that I can. I'm not saying I'm the magical, fixer of everything. But there are things that I can do to help, and I always get involved in the areas that I feel like I can contribute. So, my community involvement. Somebody asked me why I'd never run for anything before, and I'll be completely honest with you, I never thought that the need existed. It wasn't until I went to work in the finance department that I saw a need and decided I needed to get involved. But I thought I'd share with you some of the things that I have done in my private and business life. Currently, I'm the president and CEO of a company called Day or Night Senior Care. That's a company that cares for elderly people. I see that the population of Dedham is turning to over 55. A huge percentage of our town, over 55 and over 65. And that's an issue that we need. There's a lot of people here that are going to need attention. And our services need to be directed towards that if we're going to be able to help them. I got involved in the senior care business because I saw a need for it. And so that's what I decided to do. I was involved with a project called Comfort for Kids. Actually, my wife and I did this. This is my wife, Tricia. That was a project where we worked with 17 school districts, and we put together, this was years ago, Hurricane Katrina down in Louisiana, and we put together a project where kids from all over, 17 different school districts, actually got together and they just made blankets, and they had notes for the kids on them, letting them know that there's people up north here thinking of you. And it was just phenomenal. When we went down and saw the kids getting the blankets and just feeling like, our entire community was devastated, but here we have these people thinking about us, and it was a really, really great project. As I mentioned, I'm a former police officer. I was one of the original members of an organization called Cyber Angels. It was actually an offshoot of the Guardian Angels, which was because I have some technology background, we actually would go online to catch online predators. And I was one of the original members of that. Through two of my businesses, the Senior Citizen Technology Program was a program that we designed to go into nursing homes where people, this just came up, actually, a friend of mine and I were having a beer, and he was telling me he ran a nursing home, and he was telling me how sad it was for him that so many of the people, their minds just kind of deteriorated because they had no stimulation. And I said, I have computers that I can bring them in and teach them how to use it, and that will at least give them some sort of stimulation during the day. And they learned to play solitaire and to go online, and and it actually worked. It helped people to kind of keep their minds a little bit more active than they were able to do without them. Special Needs Technology Program, that was a program that we designed that worked with autistic kids in one high school to help prepare them for the job market after high school. So we taught them how to do some things like data entry and just working with spreadsheets and computers and numbers, and it worked out really well. I'm starting to feel like I'm boring people with this stuff, but DECA that's called Distributive Education Clubs of America. That's kids that get involved in business. I taught for DECA. I taught them about marketing and about finance and helped them raise money for their funds. I did investigations, fraud investigations, and embezzlement investigations for the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, which is kind of why I dug into the books in Dedham when I was here. It was just kind of something that I did. And I didn't like what I found there, and then I did some other things, Babe Ruth Baseball, Toys for Tots, I was a member of Kiwanis, and some other things. But the point I'm trying to make is, no, I didn't run for office until last year. But I was involved in the community in a lot of different ways. Last year was really uncomfortable for me. I didn't like speaking about the things that I did, and many of these things nobody even knew I did. My mother said, "You work for the FDIC?" But anyway, so I just wanted to let you know that we did do, we did get involved in the community. So again, one of the reasons I'm involved, when I started working for the town, I saw a need that I never thought existed, I never knew existed, and so I had to get involved. That's just what I do. And keep this in your mind, memorize it. So I couldn't find just a dot yet. Just, don't put a check mark. But April 13th, and by the way, that is the beginning of school vacation, so if you're going away, make sure you get an absentee ballot. In fact, I think If you want to apply for an absentee ballot, we've brought some applications. If anybody's going to be away, you can take an application with you, mail it into Town Hall. I'm sure Paul Munchback will be thrilled to get them all. So, we have them here for you. And that's really it. Thank you. I'd like to add one more thing. I can tell you just from the involvement I had last year that no candidate can do it alone. If you are able to volunteer, please sign up. You know, we're going to need people for, you know, we'll be going door to door as much as possible. The ultimate goal is votes. So, you know, we take donations because we use that money to get votes, but we'd rather have people. So if you can donate your time to the campaign, if you feel as though I represent something that you can believe in, please sign up, volunteer, whatever you can to help. It would be appreciated. If anybody has any questions, I'll be around. If you want anything Yeah, we have signs. Anybody wants to say?